Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all doing well. This is where I talk about the books that I'm reading. I like to read diverse books and I highlight a lot of Canadian literature. If you are new to my channel, thank you so much for checking it out. Please hit subscribe and stick around. It'd be great to have you as part of the community. Today, I am going to be talking about all of the books that I finished in August. I have quite a stack here. I'm going to start with some stats, and then I will share the books from least enjoyed to most enjoyed. I actually think that I forgot to do stats in July, so I promise I remembered this time. So these are my stats according to Storygraph. That's what I use Storygraph for, are these stats, and we'll begin with moods. And as usual, emotional and reflective are at the top, then dark, tense, sad, informative, funny. Those are followed by mysterious, lighthearted, inspiring, hopeful. So that's all, I think, pretty normal for me. And then with pace, 91% was medium and 9% was slow. And I think that that's pretty high for medium for me. I was kind of surprised there, but it was totally fine. So for page number, 64% of my books were 300 to 499 pages. 27% were less than 300. And 9% were over 500 pages. And I think that that seems about right, thinking back to what I read for August. So this is also normal. 82% of what I read was fiction and 18% was nonfiction. Then for genres, lots of genres. And this also seems right to me. Contemporary, romance, and literary are at the top. Those are followed by LGBTQ, thriller, short stories, memoir, horror, and historical. And then that's followed by dystopian, sociology, feminism, science, mystery, health, and fantasy. And then my overall rating was 3.9, so that seems pretty good too. If you watched my last book haul, then you already know that the TBR stack is currently sitting at 1,551. This is the highest that it's ever been, and I'm really hoping that with Shorty September, which is basically now, that I can read some shorter books and bring that down, bring the number down. But let's take a look at what I read in August. So starting with the lowest rated books, and then I'll go to the highest rated books. And coming in first is Consider Yourself Kissed by Jessica Stanley, who is an Australian author currently living in England. Several years ago, I read a book called Getting Over It by Anna Maxted. There's a reason I'm telling you about this book. I remember it being funny. It had all the right British humor, but also dealt with some real life issues. And I remember really enjoying the main character and the story and just, being inside her head. And I'm telling you about that book because I think I was hoping, or I thought that that's what this was going to be like, because that other book ended up being such a gem. I thought that this would be fun and maybe funny with a little bit of romance, and I was expecting just a fun, sweet love story. Instead, I got a dull, bland, and boring story that I did not care about at all. So this follows Carley over 10 years of her life. Carley meets Adam when she saves his 4-year-old daughter from from drowning, basically, in a duck pond. And Carley begins dating Adam, and things take off. The relationship in the book, it wasn't all terrible by any means. I did find being in Carley's head annoying. She was constantly complaining, and that stream of consciousness was so boring to me. The author also tries, in my opinion, really hard, or at least it seems that she does, like to put every political situation over the 10 years in the story. I don't mind a bit of that to, give you a sense of time or a sense of like where you are and what's going on in the world. I totally get that, but I thought in this case it was too much. And it took away from the story rather than, adding to the story. So this book was not for me. I don't think that I will read any more Jessica Stanley books. I have no desire to pick any up. I will be unhauling this one probably pretty soon. But it has reminded me of Anna Maxted. So maybe what I will do is I will look up some of her other books and try one of those because I really did like that other one. So this brings the TBR stack to 1,550. Okay, moving on to the 3-star books. I have Palm Meridian by Grace Flahive, who is a Canadian author. And I've already talked about this book several times, but especially when I did a travel and reading vlog. So I will link that video below so you can go and check it out and get more details about what I say about this book if you wish. But this had some quirky characters. I liked the premise, and I would consider reading more from this author, from Grace Flahive. So if they choose to do more, because I believe that was a debut. That was a debut book. Next is All Fours by Miranda July. This is a book that I'm still thinking about. And I guess you could say that it's still settling with me. It's come up in several conversations since I finished it, including at an author event that I was recently at. And every time that happens, every time other people bring it up and they're talking about it, I think about it all over again. And I've kind of shifted in how I feel about certain things. But the main character in this is never named. She's 45 and is basically having some kind of midlife crisis. She's married, she has a son, and she is planning on taking a road trip across the country. So she lives in LA and she's going to New York. When this woman does go on her road trip, she stops about 20 to 30 minutes into the trip and she books herself into a hotel. So, okay, that's odd. Then when she pays a designer to redesign the hotel room, and I don't mean can you paint? She's willing to pay almost $20,000 to do it. That's when I was like, wait a second, what is going on here? What is up with this woman? So there are memories or flashbacks to her childhood and her earlier life. So we begin to understand, that there's way more going on than we initially realize. So the character, has many layers and often acts very irrationally and outrageously. So there is a lot of sex in this book. And I don't think that I'm a prude by any means, and I don't mind reading sex scenes in a book. I like some spicy sex scenes. It's all good. But this was a lot, and I'm not sure that it was all necessary for the story. So I just found, after a while, it took away from the story for me, instead of, again, adding anything to it. The woman does find herself in some bizarre relationships that feel like she doesn't really understand, like she doesn't understand them herself. I don't know if that makes sense. But she's searching, and this also changes, her marriage, but maybe not in the way that you think it will. So I just felt like there was a lot going on here, and at first I was really engaged in learning more about her and what was motivating her, like this character, but then it just got to a point where I was kind of ambivalent about the whole thing. So if you've read this, let me know your thoughts and kind of where you stand with this, because I know that some people really love this book, and then there's others who really haven't loved this book. It seems to kind of go one way or the other, and be a bit divisive maybe. I don't know. So with that, those 3-star books, it brings the TBR stack to 1,548. Next are the 4-star books. And first is Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. And I talk in more detail about this book in a video that I did about, what do I talk about? I talk about 5 books about death, dying, grief, and bereavement. So I talk about it there, and I will link it below. This basically talks about the fact that, we all have to face our mortality. We're all going to die. And the many obstacles that people face near end-of-life decisions, and how we might want to live that out and make that better. So check out what I think more about this. I also rated Things in Nature Merely Grow by Yiyun Lee 4 stars. And I also talk about this in that video of the 5 books about death, dying, grief, and bereavement. And this book, this is a book about the author's experience of having both of her sons, her only children, die by suicide. And I want to read a couple of her other books too. It was maybe some tougher reads, but they were good. So the next 4-star book is A Season in the Okanagan by Bill Arnott. And I talk about this in my travel and reading vlog that I will link below. And I read this while I was actually in the Okanagan, so that was kind of cool. And I really liked that about it. This isn't a travel guide. It's more of a travel book that will give you a sense of the place, if that makes sense. And I really liked how Bill Arnott brought several different elements and aspects together in this book. So it's a quick, sweet little read. And I've talked with Bill Arnott before when I read one of his other books. So I will leave that video below as well, and you can check that out. The final 4-star book was Never Whistle at Night. It's an Indigenous dark fiction anthology, and it's edited by Shane Hawk and Theodore C. Van Alst Jr. I hauled this book, when I hauled Consider Yourself Kissed at the same time, at the same bookstore, when I visited 2 bookstores in Edmonton. I think that's true, in July. So I will link that below as well. So Things in Nature Merely Grow. I think I got, I might have also been part of, those might have also been part of all of those hauls. Anyway, this anthology was really great. It's always hard, I think, to sum up a short story collection or an anthology because it's all these different authors and they're all writing different things. But what I loved about this is that it introduced me to new writers that I had never even heard of. So I would like to check a few of them out. And then it also included some of my faves. There are authors that I've talked about on my channel many, many times. I'm trying to think, Sherry Dimeline and Richard Van Camp and Wabgashig Rice, of course. And then authors that I've been, wanting to read as well. So Tommy Orange, who I really need to read his stuff. There's quite a variety of stories in this. There's different genres and different themes. And my favorite story was, I think it was like the second last one in the anthology. It's called Collections, and it's by Amber Blaser Wardzala. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly. But she's a new to me author, and now I want to read more by her, so I'll definitely check that out. But there are several great stories, so if you're looking, for a good anthology or something a little bit darker, then this could definitely be one to check out. I really, really enjoyed it. So with those 4-star reads, it brings the TBR to 1,544. So we are going in the right direction. This next book I forgot to haul. And I see that I only rated it 4.25 stars, and I'm kind of surprised because when I think back, I really enjoyed it. It's Every Summer After by Carley Fortune, a Canadian romance writer. And Carley Fortune has been, hit or miss for me. And this was her debut novel. And I have to say that I really, really liked it. If I were to rate it, again, if I were to rate it now, I think that I would give it at least a 4.5, maybe even a 5. I want to say that I'm not sure why I only gave it 4.25 at the time, but I think I do remember. So sometimes books continue to stay with me, right? And they grow on me after I've read them. So sometimes the rating does change. I don't know if that happens for you, but hopefully you know what I mean. So the thing that I loved most about this book was the pacing. It just read so easily. The characters were lovely. The story was easy to follow. And the love story in it was it was a sweet love story. It's a friends to lovers trope with Sam and Percy. With Sam and Percy at the beginning of the book. Yes. And Percy is returning to Barry's Bay, which is where she has spent several summers when she was younger. And it's where, what's his name? Sam. It's where she met Sam and his family who lived there, and they ran a restaurant. So in some ways, it's also a coming of age story. And the families are close, and then Percy, makes a huge mistake, I think she would say, and she's coming back now, and so it's kind of difficult. So this book has very similar vibes to, and now I think that this is actually why I might have only rated it 4.25. I might have given it this lower rating because it has very, very similar vibes to The Summer I Turned Pretty, which I haven't read that series of books, but I have watched the show on Prime. So if you like those kind of vibes, or you like that series, then you will most likely enjoy this, because there are several similarities between the stories. So I'm not counting this one off the TBR because I didn't actually add it to it. It never actually made it onto the TBR number, so that was kind of a freebie. Okay, so next up are 4.5 star reads, and first is a book that someone who I talked to who worked at an Indigo store, which is a big bookstore here in Canada, and this was like about 5 years ago, I think. They recommended this to me, and it's called Blindness by Jose Saramago, and it's translated from the Portuguese by Giovanni Pontiero. So the premise of this book is so compelling, and I was really drawn into the story at first. The characters don't have any names. They are all kind of given a description. So there's the first blind man who becomes blind while driving his car. He stopped at a red light, and it happens very, very suddenly, and he experiences this white blindness. And he gets home by the help of a stranger, and there's a whole side story there. But as you can imagine, like, this is so scary. And his wife brings him to go see his doctor. And then the doctor himself becomes blind. And within a short period of time, people all over are becoming blind, like throughout the city. So they take people to this old mental hospital where they can basically keep them secluded because this is so like contagious. The blindness is so contagious. So they want to keep them away from the rest of society. And when they pick up the doctor, I think it is, his wife goes along. But what people don't know is that the doctor's wife is the only one. She's the only person who can still see. But she lies, saying that she has just gone blind as well. So once they're at this mental hospital place, she helps others and still pretends that she's blind. But as you can imagine, the crime and brutality runs rampant. And some of the scenes were difficult to read. Some of it's pretty horrific. The only thing that I didn't like really about the book is that the blindness is never really explained. So we don't understand what has happened. So yeah, it just has it has a Bird Box kind of vibe to it, but it leaves a lot of things unknown. Which is fine, but it kind of bugged me. I wanted to know what was going on. So next up is Lady Tan's Circle of Women by Lisa C. And this is one that, like every summer after, I would probably change my rating, my initial rating, just after sitting with it for a bit. In this case, so I've given it 4.5. I would probably put it at a 4-star, but it deserves a 4.5 too. It's fine. Lisa C is one of my favorite authors, and many of her books have, they continue to live within me. But this particular story, which I really liked, it's not staying with me in the same way that some of her other books have. So it might not be fair to compare books, by the same author, but I can't help it. It's just, I don't know if you do that, but I can't help doing it. So this is a story that is inspired by the true story of a female physician in the 15th century in China. I really like that about this book. And this follows two girls and their friendship. So you have, and I don't know if I'm saying their names correctly, but Young Xiang is learning from her grandmother, who is a doctor. And then there's Mai Ling, who is a midwife, and she's in training. She's learning from her mother. And the two girls are from different classes, and there is this division between doctors. So doctors are not allowed to touch blood. And then there's the midwives who, are always touching blood. So that was an interesting distinction that I did not know about. So eventually Yung Xian is married off to a prestigious man, and she's only 15, and she is also forbidden by her mother-in-law to continue her medical practice. And this is devastating to her because, they have created a support network of women, and it's giving her purpose. And now she's isolated and she becomes very lonely. And she's having to do, whatever her mother-in-law says. And her husband, he's not mean or anything, but he doesn't really support her either. But he does whatever his mother says as well. So Yun Xian then has to figure out ways that she can still do what she loves, and to make connections with, her friends, with these women. So this is that was a small summary, but this is a really good book for female friendship and resilience. And I love that it's based on this real person, in a time that it would be, I would think, very, very rare to have a female doctor. So it was good. It was good. This next book I also gave a 4.5, but I could probably be convinced quite easily to give it a 5. Again, I think it has to do with comparing the author's other books that I've read and comparing those books to each other. And I know it's probably not fair, but I have read many, many others by this author that I have enjoyed, I'm going to say more or as much. But this was a really good book too. It's called Homefront by Kristin Hannah. And I talk about this more in the travel and reading vlog that I did. And again, it will be linked below. But this is another book about strong women overcoming obstacles or difficult things. So this is about Jolene. Yes, I'm not talking in third person. The main character is Jolene, who is a wife and mother and also a helicopter pilot. And she gets deployed to Iraq, which turns the family's life upside down. And what I liked so much about this book, especially the fact that each character really has a place in the story, and I empathized with each one of them and their perspectives and what they were going through individually, but then also as a family. So if you were already a Kristin Hannah fan, I think that you would like this. I think that you would, totally get this. This is her kind of story. But if this is your first Kristin Hannah book, then this will definitely give you a really good idea of kind of like a taste of what her writing is like and how she tells a story with so much emotion, and you can't help but empathize with the characters. So with those 3 books, that brings the TBR stack to 1,541. Okay, the final book that I have to talk about, and the book that I rated 5 stars, was a buddy read that I did with Michael from Michael Romeo Talks Books. And we tried before having a buddy read and it didn't go as great, but we read Hearts in Atlantis by Stephen King together, and this was a success for us. So this is 5 short stories that are all interconnected to kind of give one larger, broader story. And the first story and the longest story is called Low Men in Yellow Coats. And it begins in 1960, and it's about how a young boy named Bobby Garfield, I absolutely adored him, he lives with his mother. His father has passed away, and he begins a friendship with Ted. Ted is renting a place upstairs from where Bobby and his mother live. And there's something special about Ted, and I loved their friendship and how it impacts Bobby's life and also his friends' lives as well. So it's a bit of a coming of age story, and there's a first love as well, because Bobby's friend Carol is an important character and figure in a lot of the characters' lives. So this first story is about half, maybe even a little bit more than half of the book. It's a huge book. And then the next 4 stories kind of give a glimpse into the lives of these other characters. And we see how the Vietnam War has affected them, how PTSD has affected the soldiers coming back from the war, and just how their childhood has also continued to stay with them and affect them as well. So the last story brings us back to Bobby in 1999, and it wraps up everything, I think, really, really well. So I thought it was great reading this with Michael, because, I think that we both really enjoyed the book, so that helps. And then it's always, I think, great to have someone to talk to about, the books that we're reading and that kind of thing. So thank you again to Michael for reading along with me. And yeah, I really appreciated it, and this has been on my shelf forever, so nice to finally get to it. And then after finishing the book, I watched the movie with Anthony Hopkins, who plays Ted, which I thought was really well done. It stays pretty, yeah, it basically focuses on the first and last story. And then it stays, you know, pretty true to what happens in the book. But I was able to find it for free on YouTube, which was fantastic. And I sent that link to Michael, but Michael said that he couldn't play the link, which is unfortunate. So I guess the link isn't, you know, available everywhere. But if you can get a copy of the book and the movie, I think that they're both worth checking out. So yeah, it was nice to read another Stephen King book. It's been a while. So with this final book, it brings the TBR to 1,540. So please let me know if you have read any of these, if you've read any of these books and what you think of them. Do you agree, disagree? Are there some that, you know, you would like to read that have interested you? What are the books that you read in August that you would recommend? I would love to hear about all of those. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.